Excuse me. Well, the reason that we're wearing our Tyla and Douglas hat today is because we promised you guys that we would give you an update and a summary of a conference that we just went to. Now, Douglas and I are very interested in the topics of anything about energy, frequency, vibration, and we have done this kind of work long before we came on the scene as the Anonymous Patriots and Thomas and Betsy and Thomas and whoever we are, whenever. And that's the fun of playing the glass bead game, because you can see yourself in this mirrored way of your different aspects, and you can explore different areas. You don't have to be in a silo. And the globalists are really, they want to put you in a silo so that you don't think outside of the box. Well, anyway, we went to a conference. We're going to give you a summary on it. The last conference that we went to was in Mexico, and while we were down there, we were getting trained on a device that we had already used. It's an indigo device, and Thomas can talk to you about the inventor of that, who's very cool. But anyway, we have so much to say, so I apologize for the length, but I guarantee you it's going to be a wild ride. I told Thomas not to hold back. We cannot dumb this down. If we do, it's going to take forever to get through it. So if there are any concepts that we're talking about that you don't understand, I encourage you to get on the other side of the glass bead game and see all the incredible material that we left there for you before we came over on this side to do the geopolitics. So, Thomas, anything for you before I do one more little intro?
Well, we're giving no medical advice, and even though you are a naturopathic doctor, we are not telling people that these healing modalities will or won't work for them. We are simply reporting, and like so much we do, we are vetting things for you so that we can try to present them in a way as the type of selections that you would have in alternative medicine, and how those relate to normal medicine, allopathic medicine as it's called. So we're going to address all kinds of things today.
And that is true, because you see, how do you find out information on these devices? What happens is there'll be different conferences running in the United States and abroad, and where the inventors will bring their products. They give you a sales pitch, and then if you're interested, you can buy it, but you usually get to try it out. We like to go because we're testing everything, but now we would really like to show you the things that we're looking at and the things that we're finding that are working for us. Now, the way that it started for me is many years ago, I saw someone using dowsing rods, and that really was very interesting to me. And so I tried it myself and learned how to douse. I'm certainly not a dowser like Douglas's grandfather was, but it was an interesting experience of being able to experience fields of energy and vibration with the movement of the dowsing rods. And then I found out about the Toronto dowsers, amazing group of dowsers out there in Toronto. Big shout out to you guys. And I wanted to learn more about it. And they put me in touch with the Vesica Institute down in North Carolina. Robert Gilbert runs that program. And what he does is he will teach you how to move from the dowsing rods to start using pendulums, so that you can begin to measure and determine vibrations, and then you learn how to work with those vibrations. So that's kind of how I came into it. Douglas, how did you get into this work?
Well, as you know, I was a sensitive when I was born, and so I got into all kinds of things that were alternative, and people would, because of that, they would see that, and they'd see the things that I was doing and invite me into their houses to show me their black boxes. And I mean that literally. They would whisper, shh. Even anthroposophists, late into anthroposophy, the anthroposophists are the ones who have the radionics devices, the radiesthesia devices, these vibrational devices. They have the stones, and they have the right colors, and they have all this stuff. And so the anthroposophists, the followers of Rudolf Steiner, are into this in kind of a different way. But what we're into, because Tyla's really a naturopathic doctor, if you didn't know that, and she's into everything. So look at her Ascend diet. If you want to look at all the different modalities of healing, and you want to look at them in a sensible way, through a sensible program that is a graded program, which means step by step, going very logically where you see absolute results from each step, that is the Ascend diet. And it's a gift that really Dr. Wells really Tyla Wells. Tyla Gabriel, Dr. Gabriel, she's got many names. She made this as a gift to everybody. So it's free. You can get it just like all of our books are free. But what we love to do is early on, some years ago, we had run across so many modalities that we thought, what are we going to do? This is so great. We get to delve into all this stuff and we get to try it. But now all of our friends say, what is this? What's that? How do you do this? And so we'd say, well, we're going to just have to gather them together and have what we invented in our mind as the quantum parlor, which was invite people over, show them these modalities. So we got into this in a big time. We're talking, LEDs, we're talking infrared, we're talking lasers, we're talking direct current transduction into the body. We're talking using substances like Ormus, substances like C60. The indigo machine is the most complicated, has 174...
Bill Nelson, say something about that for folks who don't know that machine.
Well, Bill Nelson is one of the great geniuses of our time, but he invented the indigo machine. It had names before that. It's gone through different stages. But it is the most complicated... It's a computer-driven program that has 174 modalities of basically radionics, but better than radionics. What he did is unbelievable. He took every vibration of every substance there is, and if it wasn't already cataloged by the people who've been doing this since the 1870s, back in Germany and in Britain, they came up with all these vibrations for everything. They'd put substances in diatomaceous clay. They'd put receptors in there, potential gradient receptors, and then they'd see what would be the frequency change, and they subtract that from the diatomaceous clay, and they'd say, okay, the frequency of amethyst is this. But we can also now measure it, and we find that they were very accurate back in those days.
Or the frequency of an ankle pain is this. I mean,
exactly.
It measures all kinds of vibrations. From vitamins and fruits and flowers and essences and everything. It's so amazing.
And in the old days, I'm going to throw out some history here, but sorry, there was a guy named Dr. Albert Abrams, another one named George Delaware, another person, Dr. Ruth Drown. We're talking then Thomas Hieronymus. All of them invented radionics machines, but they're really based upon radiesthesia. And radiesthesia is basically using a pendulum and your body and your muscles as a way to determine values, whether it be color values, vibration values, the value of a substance, the value for you for that substance, the value, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing as dowsing. Instead of using, like my grandpa did, a willow witch, as he called them, had to be cut at the exact right time of the day and blah, 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 and you have to get this certain thing, and then he'd use it, and he was really good, very good at it. I myself, as a sensitive, never used anything like that. I just used my hands. And so I've seen healing. I knew Catherine Coleman and Oral Roberts and all these people. So I have all this exposure to direct hands-on healing, which, again, Dr. Wells is being humble, but she, too, is trained in these things. And so what we're doing is we train in all of them. And then we see which one works. And then we use those modalities for regeneration, for longevity, for healing, and for myself, because of different problems I have, I've been using them for healing, and that's the only reason I'm still alive, probably.
And then that's what the quantum parlor was. It was a way that you could come to our home and try out the things that we had found that worked for us, and then you could go and try them in your life. Well, we can't reach the world by doing it that way. So what we've decided to do is when we find these modalities, we will report on them to you. We do not receive any financial compensation from any of these products or services, and you must test them yourself to make a determination. We're telling you about our experience with them. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And the conference we just went to, again, Tyla is going to be kind of humble about this, so I'm going to have to say it for her to put it in perspective.
I have editing functions. I can't tell you that. So
I know that.
I think we should just move on now and talk about...
The point is that you have done training.
Yes.
And that training has to do with subtle vibrations. And so when you're talking radiesthesia, radionics is usually using a machine. But remember, those machines have to have a psychic. So when you talk about Albert Abrams, you talk about Delaware. It was Delaware's wife who was the psychic who could make his machines work. She would stroke her finger across basically a rubber pad that was tightly bound in this little thing. And she'd stroke her finger across it. Sometimes it's just a piece of wood, sometimes it's a piece of metal. And when you hear kind of a sticking effect, and you literally hear it, because I've used these machines. Peter Kelly, a friend of mine when he was still alive down in Marietta, Georgia, worked with Thomas Hieronymus. These guys basically are the leaders of radionics in the world. And Peter Kelly, I got to be part of an experiment he was doing called the BETAR machine, BETAR. You can look it up. It will take a person who's literally addicted to heroin, put you inside of a geometric structure, aim certain music at you that has certain frequencies, aim subliminal music at you that has different frequencies, transduce directly into your chakra the exact frequency that the Tibetans say is the frequency of that chakra to tune it up, and then at the same time have the Tibetan bell sounding that is the same exact frequency that has the 7 metals, including meteorite in it. And then there's also...
Or you can just buy an AMI 750 from Cymatics, which we're going to tell you about.
Exactly.
Okay? Which we did, and I can't wait till it gets here.
The BETAR machine is beautiful. Peter Kelly was one of the great geniuses of radionics, period. I mean, I don't know anybody better than him. I was honored to get to work with him a bit, and I got to work on all those machines. He created a museum of the Delaware machines, Ruth Drown machines, Wilhelm Reich orgone boxes. You name it, it was in this dome that he had, which was across the street from Thomas Hieronymus, who invented the number one machine that proved radionics. I'm going to give you an example here, but let's go back. All these machines, Peter Kelly had them. No one could make them work because he needed a psychic. Well, one day...
I thought those were those Tesla devices. Are these the ones that
These are the ones that requires Delaware's wife to stroke them to say yes.
So this is not... Okay.
So they set the frequency. Let's say you know the frequency of your liver is... it's on you have 10 rheostats, 0 through 9, right? So let's say that the frequency is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay. So you set that frequency, that's your liver, right?
Right.
Well, now I can see what happens. I can send in by the frequency of something that's going to heal your liver with a machine that you don't have to be there. You could be in...
no, it works in subspace.
Subspace.
And I know you're telling people about this.
It sounds crazy.
But I'm saying that, or you can get an indigo, and Desiree Dubonnet has got the setting on the computer that will work in subspace too.
I see your
point.
So
I'm just saying to people is, when you listen to Thomas describe these old ways of doing it, just remember, we're going to be showing you the new versions of how it can be done today. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the only problem is that the indigo is extraordinarily expensive for most people. So what I'm going to end up saying today is...
But they could go to a practitioner.
You can use a pendulum, color, light, stone... Yes. You can use the most sophisticated equipment, which we have tested, by the way. We have tested some of the coolest equipment you can imagine. Flashing lights of different colors. Remember the ones in
or just color balance your room with tiny little dots, which you learn how to do at the Vesica Institute.
Can we say that word, bio?
Well, no, I don't want to talk about any particular modality there because
let's say there's shapes.
Many.
There's shapes that you can put around your house that will help you.
Well, I'm just saying, if you go to the website, you'll see different modalities, and you need to move through it in the program that resonates with you, because people are coming from different approaches to spiritual science and vibrational science. It has to resonate with you. I mean, that's the whole point.
Plus, in the old days, they put people in jail who did this because they said they were practicing medicine without a license. Ruth Drown was arrested and got so sick in jail she ended up dying when she came out. Reich was arrested. All these people, they were accused of, because they had machines that could actually create energy that even Einstein said couldn't be created. When Wilhelm Reich sent an orgone box across state lines to Einstein, he tested it and sent it back, and he said, all my theories are wrong because you created energy out of nothing. And so, you're right, Dr. Reich. But then what happened? Because Wilhelm Reich had sent that orgone device across a state line, they said he was practicing medicine without a license, and he was arrested for it. But they were all arrested, they were harassed, and the AMA wouldn't allow any of this to happen, and people had to keep them hidden in their basements, literally locked up And I'd come along and they'd say, hey, come check this out. And they would say, and I'd say, oh, good, does it work? And they go, well, we don't know, we can't get it to work. Now, as Tyla's saying, there are machines, you do not have to be a psychic to run these machines. They're actually called interface devices. What are they called? Consciousness interface devices. Mm-hmm. So if you add your consciousness to it through your, whatever you call it, clairvoyant, psychic, astral energy, whatever, blessing it, praying for the people that you're working on with this machine, because once you have them and you get their frequency, they can be anywhere in the world and you can treat them. And you can actually see what's wrong with them. It comes up on the screen in 174 different modalities. So you can treat them with electroacupuncture, you can treat them with color therapy, you can treat them with, you name it, adjust their spine, you can find what their illness is, you can treat them with anything.
But remember this, if you break a bone, don't take me to the herb shop, just go to your local emergency room, because there is healing in the three-dimensional world that needs to take place, and then there's healing that goes on in the higher dimensions. And we work in the higher dimensions so that we can affect from the top down the lower dimensions, okay? But trauma must be treated in the 3D world. So, lots to say. Let's move through the conference. And I know the high point for you was anything regarding the stones and crystals out there. Douglas is an avid collector of the most exquisite crystals and stones.
Well, since I was sensitive when I was young and I was near Arkansas, I'd go down to Arkansas, and there's a story I wrote about my grandpa and his connection to crystals. And some really great crystal comes, the best crystal in America comes from the Washita Mountains in the northern part of Arkansas. And Hot Springs is a good place to go. And so I knew all the miners from the time I was young, and I worked with crystals. And I found that if you just take a crystal that grows out both ends, it's called double terminated, and as long as it's completely natural, never been treated, and you put it on your body, I could see that it created extra energy. And if you put it on certain parts of your body, it would tell you about that part of the body. So if you put it on the areas where there's a lot of nerve ganglia, which they call chakras, in these different areas of the body, you could actually sense what was going on there. And then you lay them on the different, your arms and legs and everywhere, and your head and everywhere. And then if the energy wouldn't flow from one crystal to the other, you could easily see. I could hear. You can see, hear, taste, touch, whatever. It's all one kind of thing when you're having a psychic experience. But the deal is that you could see if there was a blockage. And then there's a device I would use that I could touch a person, click it, and it would cause two crystals to connect to each other and scrape them together, creating a piezoelectric, in other words, not an electric charge, but a piezoelectric, a charge created by quartz crystal. Quartz vibrates at 32,780, I think, vibrations per second. And if you take that energy and you either squeeze it, heat it, smack it, do anything, there's going to be a discharge, and it's actually going to enhance the energy coming out of that crystal. And if it's a double terminated crystal, it's going to come out both ends. So if you lay it on your body, the warmth, the pressure, causes it to activate, and after a while, so I would do this for people because I could see that people were going nuts with holding crystals.
But you're not with everybody out there in the audience. They want to know how they're going to get them some of this.
Get some double terminated, good quartz crystal, as clear as you can get it. Make sure it's natural, and put it in your hand. Put it under your head, and if you haven't had dreams before, I've seen many, 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 literally unbelievable amounts of people.
Just under your pillow?
Yeah, within 2 to 3 feet of your head under your pillow,
okay.
Double terminated quartz crystal, and you will probably have a dream the very first night. At least that's been my experience, as long as it's within 2 to 3 feet of your head. And so people say, well, this is stupid. No, it's not stupid. They tested crystals a long time ago, and this is well known. You take a good single terminated crystal, which grows out only one end. You spin it in one room, and people who have somnambulism, which means they keep going to sleep without controlling it, or they're in a trance state because they can put themselves in one, or they're hypnotized, all those people can tell you what direction it's pointed after you spin it 100% of the time. How is it that no matter how far they are from the crystal, once they're tuned to it, you can take that crystal far away, spin it, and they can still tell you what direction it's pointing it in once it's done spinning. How is that possible? Because crystals are everywhere. That vibration comes and it's everywhere. It's the vibration that causes trees to stand, silica. Silica in our bones turns to calcium, but at first it's silica. Silica is in our skin, in our teeth, in our hair. When you're in utero, you're over 90% silica. Most of the world is based upon silica. The minerals, most of the good crystalline minerals are silica. And so when we're talking about subtle vibration, after what I saw there, they showed us this new stone, merlinite, which they are calling the proper name, which is indigo gabbro, found in Madagascar. There's new stones being found, and people give certain qualities to them. And so they built literally devices that these stones are in certain shapes and structure and angles and in relationship to each other, that energy is created by them. In other words, generators that are generating energy that is subtle energy, but it's the energy of crystals that are in geometric relationships to one another, mathematical, very specific relationships to one another, that then make them create energy. And if you put light in them, or you could do transduction, but they didn't show us that, or you run water near it, or you put it into a fountain, or you use certain crystals, you can amplify that energy. So you got this really great energy of a stone that can, this energy, merlinite, this indigo gabbro, can absorb energy and transform it. So they use it in these, what you would call geometric shape, that generate subtle energy. But there was also a guy who has found an amazing mine in the Black Hills, I believe it is, and he has found a stone that's mostly lithium and another stone that is a blue tourmaline. And supposedly when they get near each other, they create this polarity.
It's called euphoria light.
I'm sorry, euphoria light. Thank you. And he got to name it because he found that there's no other stone or mine like this in the world. And so they were showing how this stone works. And it's pretty interesting because these are stones. I love stones, but really when it comes down to it, it's as simple as if it's crystallized and it's natural. For those of you who are anthroposophists in the audience, Rudolf Steiner says that the group soul of the mineral is on a level so much higher than the human. See, the group soul of the animals is higher than us. The group souls of the plants are higher than us. The group soul of the minerals are even higher. That comes from the realm of the thrones. It's the will of the gods, because they've crystallized and they're going to hold that form for as long as this illusion of the three-dimensional world in time and space is here. But what are they actually telling you? What are these crystals telling you? Every single mineral is, as we heard in these talks, they are a library. I would call them an alphabet that can create a language of stones. And what is the language of the stones? That's what's coming to us from the stars. But then the metals come to us from the planets. But silica comes to us from the sun. In silica, we actually build our own identity, our own I am, our own ego on silica. And without that, we wouldn't have an I am. We wouldn't have an ego. We couldn't have an ego presence. So the base frequency, the carrier frequency, is the frequency of silica. It's very simple. 32,768 or whatever it is. So every single second, that's the reason that they can tune a watch. They count the frequency emanations from a quartz crystal that they're twisting, bending, or pressurizing in the watch and enhancing its emission. They count it in a counter, and that's how they determine 1 second.
And so for people who are new to this, other stones have different vibrations and frequencies, and with that, they may bring other types of healing or lifts your vibration in a different way.
Exactly. And I'm not saying you should get a crystal ball and start doing scrying. No. That's not the point. Matter of fact, the best thing you can do with a crystal ball is take it out in the sun and you can start a fire with it. And that's the reason that a magician considered the crystal ball magic.
Okay, well, that's a little far-fetched for me.
But it's the truth. You can start a fire because it becomes it enhances the focus of the heat of the sun, and you can light a fire
are there
with it.
any particular stones that you wanted to bring forth that you saw that were interesting?
Well, they put the focus on a lot of things, that azurite and the way that azurite heals the land. peridot, the way it helps the mind. They had some beautiful minerals and gems there. They talked about...
This is the one that I really like.
Oh, yes.
What is it? Phenakite.
Phenakite, which I had never even heard of before.
Yes,
and
beautiful little stone.
And so I learned all kinds of interesting things. And phenakite supposedly is pure white light. Well, yeah, that was my experience the first time I held it. I don't think I've ever seen phenakite in any gem show or anything ever.
But so what I did is that I bought a sample of all these amazing little stones, and when I got home, I put them on my quantum NRG and device, which of course you know about. So I took the frequencies of those stones, and then I transferred them into a water, a tincture. You could even do a card with a magnet on it, and then you can carry that frequency without having to carry the rocks.
It is not by coincidence that every single religious tradition refers to these stones, and oftentimes the very same stones, whether it be the stones found in heaven, the floor of heaven, or whether it be the New Jerusalem and the stones that make it, or whether it be the stones in the breastplate of the high priest of the Hebrews, Aaron, or whether it be what this magical stone called, for the Hebrews called the Zohar, that Tzorah, which I didn't have until I did the research on the Holy Grail book, which we just recently finished. I did not know that literally Abraham carried a Zohar, this magic stone around his neck, which came from an archangel that brought it out of the Garden of Eden, and it was passed down to Noah, and that Noah then passed it to Adam, and Adam to Noah. And all the way down through all these lineages, so that in the ark, it was that stone that gave them light and nourishment. It was the Holy Grail.
Maybe it was a phenakite.
Well, it was the Holy Grail for sure, because it literally nourished them. It gave them a different light at night or day, so they'd know when to feed the animals, their night and day cycles and the whole thing, and it fed them. Well, that's also the 3 seeds from the fruit of the tree of life that were put into the mouth of Adam, which his head then was kept, and it turned into a glowing stone, which was also said to be the same thing as the Zohar stone, or the stone of On. So this is no joke. These stones, and when you talk about the stones that you just talked about, that collection of 10, those are the purest stones. They have not been messed with, they have not been dyed, irradiated, or anything else, and so they're really active and lively.
And say that was very interesting, because a lot of the stones now are being irradiated to bring out the color, and so now you have all of the essence of the stone being removed, replaced by something with a low-grade radiation.
Yes, as was talked about a lot, and of course we knew this. A lot of stones are heated so that they get a color that's more desirable and it draws more money. So yes, you have to be very careful buying any stone these days because it could be fake.
Well, that's why it's good to go to conferences like this, so that you can have high quality vendors.
And these people use pendulums to test them all the time.
Well, first of all, before the conference starts, for those who don't know how to use a pendulum, they teach you how to use that.
And I was amazed, because all my years I never used any devices like a pendulum or dowsing. Because I just use different systems, muscle testing and all this other stuff. So I actually learned to use a pendulum. And here's the secret to pendulum. I had no idea. It is the length of the string. So you have to start off very short and move your fingers back and forth, letting the length of the string get longer. And you have to create a pattern going forward and backwards, so you have a baseline. In other words, you create a carrier frequency. And then as you lengthen it, at a certain point you're going to hit some dissonance, and you're going to feel it. You're going to go, oh, this thing wants to go
kind of like
the
click.
wrong way, or you feel it, and then you go, and then went a little bit further, and it goes, oh no, how could you miss this?
Yeah.
This is the exact length that works, and it works but it works different almost on everything you do, so you always have to tune it to yourself. I didn't know that. There's a thing called mental dowsing. That's what I was doing. Yes, no. Get an answer for anything. Yes or no. Doesn't matter. Muscle testing, whatever. Cards, flip a coin. It didn't matter. The point with a pendulum is it does matter. It matters what kind of a response you get. And so you have to create the carrier frequency going forward and backward, lengthen the pendulum until it gets to the exact right length, and then it will respond. But it's going to be different depending upon what you're doing with the pendulum. Now, take your finger, your first finger, take it across the palm of your hand, and you'll realize that it's the same length as the palm of your hand. That is probably the length of the pendulum string that will work best for you when you're working on yourself.
Okay, this is going to be very difficult without visuals. So
I'm just saying, this is amazing to
it
finally
is.
Understand a pendulum.
Yeah, so that's important. If you want to learn about vibrational science and it's totally foreign to you, the next step would be to do some dowsing and vibrational work so that you can see what we're talking about. Now, let's get into some of the devices that we saw. We can go back to some of the fluff earlier because the devices are so interesting. It was the transduction device, direct electrical current by Dr. Tennant. Now, I will say that when I saw this one, I watched the demonstration, but it wasn't resonating with me. I felt like there was a lot going on here. But when I talked to our AIM Patriot, Bridget, who was attending the conference as well, she says that she likes the machine and has been through the training course. So this is an example of where you could have a good device, but for me it wasn't resonating in this moment, but it might resonate with someone else. And that's why you have to experience this for yourself. Don't just take our word for it. So tell us what you know about Dr. Tennant. I think you have a long history here with this.
Well, I've been watching him for years on the internet because this is the guy known as, I'd call him Dr. Volt. He basically takes straight up electrical conduction through transduction into the body. And, on the indigo machine, you can do that also. And when you transduce, and so also with Peter Kelly and his BTAR machine, direct transduction. In other words, you take a device that goes right, you put it on your body, and the electrical energy goes right in. Now, some of these people tune it to bioelectric energy, okay? And so these are all tuned to bioelectric. So Dr. Tennant he's a very famous doctor. He also uses a pendulum, and when he's going to tell you, unfortunately, if you go see him, he's going to tell you got mercury in your teeth and you've had, what do they call it? Root canals. Unfortunately, that really messes up everything. That messes up the current of your body because each of your teeth it's a control device for another part of your body. So if you pull out a tooth and it starts to get infected in the root, then it actually stops the conductivity. So this is all about conductivity. So he'll test you. He'll figure out your chakras, these different places he calls battery storage areas. And it's all very cool. And he's got it all down to a science. I mean, you cannot argue with his science. This is electrical science.
It was a very good presentation as well.
Oh, it's really amazing. And then you put your feet on this device and hold your hands on some other device, and it shoots this energy into you and charges you up. But he believes that so many people blow out their batteries that they reverse, and you can't do anything to fix it until you get that battery back charged up and reverted up into the right position.
And that was a different demonstration where the client was lying on the table, and the light was shining from their head downward.
Yes, and he used photonic energy at certain frequencies to light up all your chakras at once from the head or from the base. It doesn't matter. So he literally was able to correct things very, very, very quickly. So he did assessments with his pendulum and through devices and through potential gradient reading and blah, blah, blah. Then he used these photonic devices and then he charged you up.
Don't talk so fast. People can't understand you.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
I assume everybody just kind of heard me the first time. So he uses photonic device, which is a frequency flashing at the top of your head, which we know the science of that going back to the 60s. A flashing light can cause you to go into a seizure if it's the right frequency. Flashing red and blue at a certain frequency will cause you to go into a seizure. They also know it causes you to go into euphoria or anger. And we have been on devices where you can tune in exactly what frequency you want to help you get that part of your body charged up. We learned that down in Mexico. So you put on these devices over your eyes and LEDs would go in. And also, once you're all charged up, it could read your charge and then it would stop. It's a biofeedback device. And that's what you want. Whether it be a pendulum being your biofeedback, no matter what it is, you need a biofeedback. Now, they also, Dr. Tennant is able to show you directly by testing you, not only with a pendulum, but also with devices to show you exactly where you're at. I talked to people that he had treated. A whole bunch of people were there. They were very thrilled. Of course, they had to go get, many of them, their teeth worked on first. And he told us how primal this is. And I've heard this for a long, 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 long time. Nobody with cancer doesn't have a root canal, basically. Mm-hmm. That somehow, but of course you could also say, well, they're a certain age and they've had a root canal. So who knows whether that's exactly right, but his logic for it and the testing for it, he would demonstrate empirically before your eyes. Very good person. He's from Texas, and his presentations were quite interesting.
And Bridget, if you're listening and you see that people in our comment box have questions about Dr. Tennant's system, would you please answer their question, because now you are a graduate of the program. Moving on to the next device, and I really liked this one from the moment the presenter came out. The inventor of this was an amazing woman. I won't take anything away from your presentation on this. It's called Cymatics, and it is sound therapy.
Yeah, Cymatics was created by Hans Jenny, who was a follower of Rudolf Steiner. And then Verbella Flowforums and the work of Theodor Schrank and all these people carried it on. Well, one guy who carried it on in England was a guy named Dr. Peter Guy's Manor. And he got all the frequencies, and when I asked her, where did these heterodyned 5 frequencies...
The her being the presenter.
Mandara, I forget her last name. Cromwell. A good presenter. She studied with him, Dr. Manners, in England, and what she found is that the devices that he was using were a little bit cumbersome, and so she kind of enhanced them and made a really cool one, and then she figured, I got to make this for everybody. You can't just hold a device up to a part of your body when you're having all this pain. So she took these, okay, now mind you, as I mentioned before, these frequencies have been out there for a long time. You can stack up the books. They'll come up about to your head of all the frequencies for every illness, everything ever. So this doctor took those frequencies, found that some worked, some didn't, but he found that there needed to be 5 of them combined to make it work really well. And this aligns with what we were taught a lot about, which was the Chinese system of 5 elements. And so the 5 frequencies are heterodyne. That means frequencies are stacked on top of each other and sent all at one time. Well, these are sound frequencies. These are not electronic frequencies. This is not piezoelectric energy. This is not ionic energy. This is direct sound frequencies. They are not in the human audible range, but they are indeed sound frequencies. And these frequencies relate to all these other devices we're talking about, yes?
Well, I just want to say, maybe this, because you're talking of the technical, but why she even did this is because when she was a young girl, she was in a Gothic type church and was listening to the music and the choirs and the organ and had a spiritual experience. She writes about this in her book, and it's from there she realized that sound could take her to places that the ordinary world couldn't, and then that set her on her path. So now continue with the technical stuff.
Yes, and so the 5 heterodyne frequencies, there were 750 of them that Dr. Manners codified and said these 750 heterodyne frequencies, and remember each of those has 5, so each of them can affect a certain part of the body or a certain illness or whatever. So she took 10 of them, put them in a machine so you can dial up 1 through 10, and she found that these are the 10 most helpful because just everybody needed this. And she took all kinds of pictures, infrared pictures, heat signature pictures, and Kirlian pictures, and she went to everybody that there was out there which could prove that these subtle frequencies coming in, which are auditory frequencies, through the feet, through gel packs in this device. And remember, Dr. Tennant had a place where you put your feet, and that's how you got recharged. So all you have to do with this device, the AMI 750 or plus 750, whatever it's called, you put your feet there and it sends it right through your body for 10, 20 minutes, and then she'd take pictures. After one treatment, you could see the dynamic change, and the people who were the readers of these heat signatures or Kirlian photography or these other forms of proof all said, well, I've never seen anything like this. We've never ever seen anything like this. And so we became quite convinced, because we know that this is true, because it comes out of the work of anthroposophy. And we know that the five are the five elements. It's the four elements, and then the fifth ether, or the fifth element, called akasha, which weaves them all together. So it is, and it's also the pentatonic scale. It's what we all started with, so our body is tuned to that. So we knew that all the principles she was saying, which she also derived a lot of them from Hindu philosophy, from yantras, from mantras, from connecting it, and the whole conference was connected to regeneration and connected to Shakti, the female consort of Shiva, the god of death, one of the three, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Brahma, the creator; Shiva, the destroyer; Vishnu, the sustainer. And so they really focused on Shakti, because Shakti brings life back where Kali ends it. So it was a very female-oriented conference, as a matter of fact. We can get into that with some of the other presenters, but the point is she did a great job of showing the connection to the female and connecting it to cymatics. And all I can say is, never seen anything like this. Sounded right the minute I heard it. I tried it. Let Tyla tell you her experience, and then I'll tell you my experience.
Well, as soon as I sat on it, I just felt so lifted. We only had a 10-minute demonstration period, but boy, the next day I was so full of energy. But what I'm really excited about, Thomas, is how everything is unfolding so quickly. I mean, we just started learning about the CBD oils and this amazing product that comes from cannabis and hemp. And now we have that, but we're getting ready to add the additional layers of healing,
Well, there's biochemical, there's plant, they talked about herbs. Of course, all the Chinese Taoist practitioners who gave presentations on the five elements were talking about herbs, but they were focused on stones, vibrations, and the five elements dance, and all these different things. And I put my feet on it for 10 minutes. And mind you, I have been on so many devices, I literally cannot count all of them. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, this is really amazing. I'm only in like 2 minutes, and I'm like, I put it on de-stress or something like that, which everybody needs, setting 1 or whatever it was. 10 minutes, right? I have been so relaxed for like 4 days. At any moment, I could just go lie down and take a nap, but I don't need to. I have not been stressed at all. Driving back, the whole thing, nothing, no stress. I cannot believe this. I actually can say I have not even felt anything like this. And combined with, yes, a lot of other, because remember, we work with crystals, so I took a bunch of crystals with me. And we work with all kinds of things. And I can't directly attribute it to the AMI 750, but I can tell you that my response to that was probably as dramatic as any response to any machine I've ever been on.
Well, that's the next device that we're going to be buying. And, well, I did place my order, and it's going to set us back $5,000. That's how much they are. They are pricey, folks, but we're going to try it out for the good of the cause, and we'll check in. The last thing that we purchased that was, I would just buy one for everybody if I could, but they're a little pricey. I get the half size, and the half size one it's called a Biomat. Douglas will tell you how it works, and we keep them in our easy chairs, just the half one. And so when we sit down, we're running that current on us, and that's one that I will not give up to anybody. Tell folks how the Biomat works.
Well, just like some of the devices we saw at this conference and at previous conferences, this one is approved by the FDA for reducing stress, and they literally say, hang on to your hat, because of that, and it's so good at reducing stress and creating heat and warmth and inexplicable healing in whatever area you put it on. It is approved by the FDA for reducing stress and ending cancer. I only know of a couple things that the FDA says affects cancer, and they say the Biomat affects cancer. Now, what is a Biomat? It's a heating pad, but it has amethyst and tourmaline in it. And you plug it into the wall, But it goes through a device that then changes that electricity into a bioelectric friendly electricity to put into the crystals.
He's only saying that for Robert and CERN.
Robert, he's very concerned about
well,
that.
we all have to be concerned about that, and it has been looked at before they even manufactured it.
It's actually the first light that comes on, whether it's even on or not, is the one that balances the negative energy coming from the
electrical lines.
The alternating current from the electric line plugged into your house. So anyway, this device, very sophisticated, also rather expensive. So you set it to whatever heat level you want. So it just sends electricity through the crystals, and it creates, because when you send electricity through a crystal, as I said earlier, it still emanates at 32,768 or whatever vibrations per second, but it amplifies it. It doesn't change the vibration frequency, but it makes it stronger. It makes it so strong that even the FDA says that a piezoelectric field is created. And when you're in a piezoelectric field, negative ions go crazy. In other words, you become super ionized. And that's exactly what heals you. And so literally they say that this device, the FDA says it heals you. But then the FDA also says that the lasers we use heal you because they reduce stress. Also say that Dr. Tennett's device heals you. I forget the name of it. Also says that the AMI 750 reduced, because she went through taking it, the inventor went through taking it through all the effort, because she's a doctor, of having the FDA approval and all this stuff. These devices are not woo-woo. Now, don't get them if you can't willingly suspend your disbelief for you to actually put your feet on it. But here's the deal. This is the part I love. No matter what conference we go to, in the next room from the presenter, they're showing you the technology on you. You go and you get it done on you, and you get to find out if it works. And you can stand up and go, "This is caca," or "Whoa, what happened here?" Okay? And I'm serious. Some of these devices, literally, a couple of them have made me, I never recovered. I didn't get yes, you did. You got the DC balls. Oh.
Okay, well, we can't go through our history of all the devices we have here. Let's look at the last conference and, of course, the things that...
But I have to say this. What? DC ball is a crystal man-made ball that has so much lead in it that when you put a frequency in it, it holds it. So we know the frequency of the sun, and we know that the fractal of that is the same frequency of love. And so he put the frequency of love in it, and it holds it.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I did not believe this till I experienced it. I thought it was complete nonsense.
Okay, so we've got too much here. We can't talk about it all, so I'm going to have to break it out. So in closing, I want you to give the closing remarks that you would have given at the conference to help people tie in all these modalities and what this means with your own research and your own book that you've published on the ethers.
Well, the ethers ties together the 7 elements of the Chinese. You see, all these practitioners know there's more than 4 elements, and so they go to the Chinese and the 5th element. But what they need is the 6th and 7th ether, because those 5 Chinese elements are controlled by the 4 elements, the 4 ethers: warmth, light, sound, and life. They're controlled by the 5th, and that's why they get all excited, because the 5th is the mother ether. It's the Akasha. It really is Shakti. It is the thing that rejuvenates all of life. It's the mother that goes between the 4 other elements, ethers, which create elements, which also basically manipulate, rule, control ether streams and the etheric formative forces. These are all spelled out in the book that we just put out called The Eternal Ethers, A New Theory of Everything, or perhaps just A Theory of Everything, by Douglas Gabriel. But of course, Tyla helped on every page, every word. And what we did there is we took the work of Rudolf Steiner and Fox-Smith and all the modern work and all the work of Einstein and all the great scientists, and say they all believed in an ether, the luminiferous ether. So right there is the light ether. Light ether can't arise without the warmth and light ether. So that proves the 2 ethers below. And the top ether they know nothing of. That's what this whole subtle vibration conference was about. How do we get to the ether called the life ether? The life ether regenerates. It's the tree of life. The 2 top ethers, the chemical and life ether, they're not really here yet. They're out in our atmosphere. They can't come down because of our atmosphere. They come from the sun. Someday we'll rise up in the atmosphere and we'll receive the sixth and seventh ether. And as we do, that will be our food and our drink. That will be our nourishment. Until then, we're trying the Ascension Diet of Dr. Wells, Dr. Gabriel. We're trying to help people raise their vibration through all these different ways: color therapy, sound therapy, light therapy, you name it, direct electromagnetic therapy I was reading about today. They used to just plug people in. Infrared therapy, voice therapy, mantra therapy,
Chinese medicine, acupuncture, things. That's why this could be a all-day presentation.
And so we said to each of the people that we wanted to speak to afterwards, here's what we would have added. And so I'm going to tell you what we would have added. We would have added the overview of the ethers. So, and it doesn't take away from anything that was said. It just ties it all together in the comprehensive cosmology that is they call their vibrational science or spiritual science, and we of course call neo-anthroposophy or Rudolf Steiner's spiritual science. And we've talked about all these different things, but in the newest book on the Grail, it's all about the fact that the maidens of the well were the voice of the well. They were the nourishment of the well. And what is the well? Why did the beautiful maidens with the golden cup that started the entire Holy Grail tradition, this goes back to the beginning of recorded time. The maidens are always at the well. Who are those maidens? And why do people literally marry them and they became the rulers of Europe? And this is all in the new book called The Queens of the Grail. And what we found there is that the regeneration of the ether.
Well, you did.
That's what it's all about.
Marrying the Wells.
And you are named Wells.
I know.
And you are a real Wells. And when you go to Wells Cathedral, it's because that's the well.
Yes.
And there are hundreds and thousands of these wells sacred to this very day. And they always tell you. And many of the apparitions, okay, that they say are Mother Mary, where are they at? Where water flows. Usually from a cave. And what do they say? That at first it's not Mother Mary, it's the mother of the earth, the mother, the beautiful lady, the one who says she is the earth, the Gaia. It is this mother, right? So the maidens of the wells come up and they nourish us. What is that? They called it in the Arthurian legend Brosialanda. You had to go to the edge of the forest and strike a certain stone a certain way. Hello? The forest is the etheric, the stone is stone, striking it as a vibration, and then you could enter into the etheric realm where the beautiful maidens who you want to marry, who you want to defend, who you want to live your whole life for, regenerate you so that then you wake up in the morning, usually outside of the forest, and you go, whoa, I'm a new person. I met the Grail Queen, the Grail Maidens, because the Grail Maidens always had the Grail, okay, hello. They didn't have to search for it. They always had it. The Maidens of the Wells always had it. Just like the three Marys always had the holy blood relics, which were the Grail to them. So this is the etheric. And what is the etheric? It's the number geometric system that holds all of this together. And when you take, now everybody wants to go to South America, take ayahuasca, take DMT, so why? They can see these patterns. What are those patterns? That's what we were just learning about. Those are the vibrational patterns of regeneration that hold the etheric together. And once you figure them out, they are the healing life force. And all you have to do to make yourself better is say, oh, look, they're stopping because of too many EMFs and 5G or whatever, or I eat bad food or whatever, people stressing me out with bad emotions. You stop that, and then the etheric becomes strong. And then what happens? Natural health. And so you can heal yourself with your mind, with your emotions, with your actions, with your rituals, with the rituals with stones, with the rituals with your devices. It doesn't matter, but in the end, remember, the sensitive vibrations for ascension take sensitivity of the person who is seeking it. You can't find the Grail unless you're sensitive. Remember, the Grail floated into Arthur's room. Guinevere was there. They'd all taken their vow to Guinevere, not Arthur. Remember that. Whose table was it? Guinevere's dad's. Okay? The Grail comes into the room. Some saw it. The pure of heart saw it. And they jumped up and they said, I'm going after it with your permission, Guinevere. And she said, fine, and gave them a kerchief, a handkerchief, which they held sacred, and then they did what? They went out and defended the maidens of Brosialanda, the maidens of the wells, and they defeated the men who tried to hide and destroy and kill the maidens of the wells. In other words, kill the etheric. In other words, kill the land. That's why the land in the Grail is a wasteland. So regeneration comes from the Holy Grail, which comes from the woman, because why? The woman keeps birthing when she can. She is the miraculous elixir of life. She is...
But it's so sad what this culture is doing to women. Women, they're turning them into men, and they're letting men be women, and it's just awful. It's a total destruction of what a woman is.
And what do they want now? They give the woman the right to kill the baby.
Oh.
But what does that mean?
To kill life.
It means that they destroy the Holy Grail. It means
Yes.
they destroy their own connection to the etheric realm. The realm of rhythm, the realm of health, the realm of life, the realm of numbers, the realm that it really is built on. You can figure it out with numbers down here, but then it goes to light and sound and life as you advance. And the true tree of knowledge is to understand warmth and life, which is basically all these vibrations, the physical and the etheric. But our real mission is to understand the stars and the sun, the astral and the ether and the ego. And that doesn't come until you get the sixth and seventh ethers. And when you get them, you're going to rise up off this earth, because unfortunately we are deprecating and destroying the earth. And most people don't know any subtle vibrations. They can't look at someone's face and tell how they feel.
But you can feel in their countenance that their pineal gland is calcified. You say things to them and you see that they don't have an openness, a flexibility to accept something that's not just right in front of them. And it's worse. We had I can't go into that story, but we are seeing young people that are so glued to their devices that they can't even carry on an adult conversation without having that device right in front of their face.
And what is that device? It's cold, warmth, light, sound, and no life. In other words, it's the anti-ethers. It is literally giving the chance for the cyber devil to incarnate under the illusion of the imagination of the artificial intelligence that can rule everyone. So if you have true warmth, you can see it in other people, and warmth of the heart is what's necessary for the light of the mind to work. And that's what's missing. People have cold thoughts. They don't have warm thoughts. And then sound, we're being bombarded by EMFs, by 5G, by sound, by radio frequencies all the time. Those are all vibrations of sound we can't hear, bombarding us. So if we could get sound under control, and we could learn how to, say, pray, pray with your voice, or mantras, or sing, or do those things, it antidotes it. And then life, well, life is the most sacred thing on the face of the earth, and now we think humans control it. That is the greatest hubris and pride and jealousy of God that would be equivalent to Lucifer's great sin, which is thinking he is as bright and as good as God and can sit on the throne.
It's at the level of people who think that we can control climate.
Precisely, which is warmth, light, sound,
Yes.
and life, because they're messing with the atmosphere.
Right.
Many of those things they dump in the atmosphere rise up to the high levels of the atmosphere, and they're changing the temperatures there, which will allow sunlight to come in, and pretty soon we're all going to have to learn to digest gamma waves. We're going to have to learn to digest waves from the sun that usually rip apart your body.
Okay, well, that's really scary, so...
But it's all good. It's just a vibration. So if you have a body that is transparent, it goes right through. If you have a body all clogged up, the light can't go through. You need the light to go straight through, because that's actually where we get all of our nourishment comes from. The air we breathe, the light that we experience, and then all you need otherwise is water. But as you've pointed out, you need enzymes if you're really going to be healthy. And so follow the path slowly. Don't think you could be a light-arian or a breatharian tomorrow.
Well, we take you from a very basic three-dimensional physical way to start exiting out of the way that the globalists have been nourishing us, which really isn't nourishment. The foods that we're being given is not nourishing. We're not taught as young children anymore how to cook, how to choose fruits and vegetables, basic stuff. And then we start working from there, moving up the chakras to other areas and help you cleanse. You can stop at any time. You can jump around, but the idea is to start becoming conscious of what your body and its organs do. All right, so leave your questions in the boxes below. If you want us to go deeper into any of the subjects, let us know. We're pretty responsive. Thanks a lot, Douglas.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.